Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Saira Taneja. Saira is Chief Experience Officer at CoverWhale, a leading commercial trucking insurance provider and fast-growing insurtech. Taneja brings over a decade of experience in the health insurance sector across various functional areas where she held multiple leadership roles. Her passion for innovative market offerings led her to CoverWhale, leveraging her expertise in scaling businesses while also achieving customer-centricity has been instrumental in the company's success. She currently oversees the growth, marketing, and customer success organizations. She holds a BA in International Business from Bentley University and an MBA from Bentley's McCallum Graduate School of Business. So without further delay, sit back, plug your earphones, and let's jump right into this conversation with Saira. Welcome, Saira.
Thank you so much, Unique. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Now, we always like to give our guests an opportunity to share in their own words a little bit about their journey. So could you take a few minutes just to share with our listeners how it is that you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me here today, and I'm excited for the conversation. So I like to say that my career took a corporate path, albeit not a linear one, and I tend to follow my passions for the next step. And so, without going into every twist and turn in my history, really it is that I started out as you mentioned, in sort of the international business track. That's where I thought I wanted to go. Worked at an embassy for a summer in DC. Decided that was not for me and wanted to go into business. And so really work from sales and marketing, product, strategy, CX, all with the common thread of strategy and CX throughout my career, and ended up in the health insurance sector. It happened by chance. And a lot of us that are in the insurance space say we got here by chance, but we stayed here because of the opportunity and really have developed a passion for it. And so CoverWhale came knocking about a year ago at this point with this amazing opportunity that was really an amalgamation of all of my corporate experiences into one beautifully challenging job. And I said yes. And so that's what led me to my current post, as you already mentioned, overseeing the growth organization, marketing, customer success, but really leading the charge on experience for CoverWhale.
Awesome. Now, what is CoverWhale for those of our listeners that don't know what your company does? Could you share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So CoverWhale is an insurtech. So that's shorthand for an insurance technology company, MGA. And for those of your listeners that are not familiar with an MGA, that's a managing general agent. So an MGA is really a go-between between carrier partners. So we have relationships with a number of different insurance carriers. And managing general agent have functions that allow them to really underwrite. And so we've been granted underwriting authority by the insurance companies with which we partner to bind, to underwrite, to price, to settle claims, and to appoint retail agents. So all of that to say is we are an entity between our carrier partners and then retail agents. That's really our primary distribution channel in the commercial trucking space. So you think of truck drivers driving across America, they need insurance. That's what we're providing. And we're doing it in a digital, user-friendly way that hasn't been seen before.
All right. So your primary customer are your truck drivers. And when you say insurance, you're talking about like health insurance, or are you also referring to life insurance?
No, yeah. So it's interesting. I come from the health insurance space, but what we're really offering is commercial auto insurance. So for their box trucks, auto haulers, semis, those are different types of vehicles. And for the cargo that they carry, so we are offering commercial auto insurance for the end users or the policy holders, which are the truck drivers or owner operators, and we're doing it through our retail agents. So I'm really excited for today's conversation because it's a pretty complicated space, and we really have multiple stakeholders. So when we think about experience, not only is it about the end users or drivers, it's about those that are distributing the insurance to them, which primarily for us is retail agents or wholesalers with who we partner with.
Mm-hmm.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So one of the things that I think would be important for this kind of experience is to have a more of an omni-channel approach to your service experience or your service delivery. Could you share with us maybe 3 things that your organization is doing that creates that kind of experience? Or if you're not doing it, maybe something you're working towards doing?
Yeah, I love that question. So it's really interesting that you said the word omni-channel, and I think that means different things to different companies. But really, where most companies start is, you have service. So you have a place where people who might have questions or an issue can go to and call you as a company, right? We and others have a call line to be able to reach out to us. So that's one point in the experience. And really, we also allow our partners to reach out to us via email. That's another point. But really, where the majority of our experience is delivered is through our proprietary platform that we've built in-house. And that's where they go to bind coverage for policyholders. And so what I'll say is, what I just described to you really, Yannick, is a multi-channel experience, right? You have various points in the interaction with CoverWhale and other companies where you can reach out, but multi-channel or siloed, right? And so I think you're asking about omni-channel, which is how are you connecting all of those points together? And that's something that we are working on internally that I know every company is really after, because some of the best experienced companies in the world have figured out. You reach out to them one way, they know when you've reached out to them a different way, and they're able to take the data that you've given them or information you've given them through those different channels and put it all in one place so that your experience is standardized across various channels. So that's something that we're working towards and getting better at every day. And really, it starts with centralization of data. And so just with your questions of 3 different ways, I just described them to you. So email, calling, as well as the platform, as well as we have an app. And you know what I love to say is that in today's day and age, there are so many different channels from which customers can reach out. And it's a matter of marrying all of them together into one omni-channel experience.
Agreed, agreed. All right. Now, Sarah, could you also share maybe 2 to 3 pain points that your end users pretty much complain about with your service that you're providing? What are some of your pain points that you're solving on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I'll be very honest with you. CoverWell grew really, really quickly. The company was founded in 2020, and we're sitting here almost midway through 2023. We did not realize we would experience this level of explosive growth. And so with that, obviously comes service challenges, right? When customers used to reach out to us, they wouldn't hear back in really a very quick fashion. And so what we've done over the last year is really work on our timeliness, because I think about what's important. What we've done is we stood up a number of self-service tools, so a knowledge base, a chatbot. We've stood up internal service level requirements for our team to achieve on the service side for getting to first contact resolution of an 85%, for an email response time of 4 hours. And so I would say, to your question, Yannick, it's really about speed of service that we've worked on and done really well at. And you know what, at the end of the day, it's leveraging technology to be able to help. And anybody can staff with hundreds of people to get to the hundreds of inquiries that are coming in. But it's really about being smart and applying technology so that you can drive down inquiries and also make improvements, right? The questions that were coming in, it gave us real insight into the pain points that we should be solving sort of at the top of the funnel, rather than staffing for on the other end.
All right. Sounds awesome. Thank you for sharing, Sarah.
Yeah.
Now, could you share with us what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
Oh, I love this one. I like to stick to, and there are so many, right? But for me, it's Miro. What I love doing, and if you ever visit our CoverWell offices in New York, and I welcome you to do so, you're going to find Post-its everywhere. When we're in person, folks have known I've visited the office when there are Post-its all around the room, and more of the team is leveraging them now. But I think it's really important to map the end-to-end journey for whatever it is that you're trying to solve for, because sometimes one part of the company may be doing something that another part of the company may not be aware of. So sitting and mapping step by step from a user's perspective is so important. And so Miro is really the digital version of that. If you've ever used it, it's essentially a whiteboard with sticky notes digitally. They can be any size, shape, color, and you essentially do the same thing. And so I use that fairly often in a virtual setting.
All right. Could you spell that for us?
Sure. Miro is Miro.
Miro, like I look. Hello?
Sorry, what was that?
I know I said it's like I look in Spanish because mirar is to
Yeah,
look.
exactly. Miro, exactly.
All right. Could you also share with us, Saira, maybe one or two books that you have read that have had a great impact on you? It could be a book that you read a very long time ago or even one that you've read recently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one that I love, if folks that are listening that have not read before, it's really old. It's from, I think it's probably from like the late 90s, but it had quite an impact on my life. It's called The Four Agreements. Have you heard that one, Yannick?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so I love that one, and not to steal the thunder of the book, but really, it's four agreements that you can apply to your life, starting with being impeccable with your word, to always doing your best, and a lot of really good wisdom in the middle. And then another one for and just to give credit where credit is due, that's by Don Miguel Ruiz, a Mexican author. And the other one is by a organizational psychologist, Adam Grant, called Think Again. And I found that one really enlightening and eye-opening, because there are a lot of assumptions and biases, and everybody's thinking that they may not even know that they have. And it's really about questioning everything that comes to mind and really encouraging others to question also. Facts that we all may think are facts are likely have changed over time. The world is a dynamic place. And so it's about thinking and thinking again. So I would encourage listeners to read that one if they haven't yet.
Brilliant. All right. So we'll have both those books and the links to accessing those books in the show notes of this episode. Now, your role, Saira, at Cover Whale is Chief Experience Officer, right? And that's a very big role. I can imagine in terms of leadership, you have to have strong leadership, certain kind of skills to ensure that you are leading a team that is not just doing things because you've told them to do it, but they are intrinsically motivated to do it.
Yes.
And so from a leadership perspective, for those of our listeners who are, tapping into this episode and they'd like to sharpen their leadership skills, especially, with, post-COVID, lots of people are burnt out mentally. They might not necessarily like everything about what they do. And sometimes that energy comes over in their drive and the work that they get done. What are some things that you do to ensure that your team is motivated and your team is doing all the best they can do to deliver that experience, not just for your end users, but also internally to each other?
Yeah, I love that question, Yannick. I think so. When you think about experience, it's not just the experience that you're delivering, it's the experience of the people with whom you're working with every single day. If the experience of the people you're working with is not good, more likely than not, your customers are not happy either. And so it starts with the culture. It starts in the organization. And for me, my leadership style is really one of being a servant leader. It's about listening to those that I lead in my organization and understanding what's working well, what isn't. I'm actually on a listening tour right now with our agent partners. I'm trying to meet with one every single day. It might take me years to get through all of them because there are thousands, but I offer this as a suggestion to other leaders who are listening to your podcast, because leadership has a tendency, we want measurement, NPS, customer effort, customer satisfaction. What is the data telling us? And you will get insights from surveys, absolutely, and that should be happening too. But just pausing and calling your customer, reaching out to them, having a meeting, sitting down with them, asking for feedback is so powerful. I've learned so much in the last X months of sitting down with partners every single day that I don't think I would have gotten the same color from a PowerPoint presentation on sort of survey insights. And so I just encourage listeners to reach out and have a conversation. You might learn something that your customers would not have offered in an online survey or other medium. So just ask and listen. I think active listening is such an important part of what we can all do. We've hired the best of the best, really. And so it's about making sure they have everything that they need to do their best work. And what I can say to you is that in terms of their experience, we really do try to we've purposely developed the culture internally at CoverWell to be one that's employee-centric. And being employee-centric also means that they have the power to do right by our customers and our stakeholders. And so what I ask the team to do is in every interaction or anything that they're standing up, whether it be at the product level, whether it be in communications, is this something that you would like to be on the receiving end of if you were in the shoes of our customer? I think that's so important, right? We're not just going to a company every day working and going home and turning off. We are actively building something and creating something that our customers are experiencing, that we experience, frankly, thousands of times a day in our interactions with other companies. So I think it's really about bringing that message home and empowering our people to be able to do right by our end users.
All right. Love it. Love it. Thank you for sharing, Saira. Now, could you also share what's one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that. I think it's figuring out how to harness technology for service. And when I say service, Yannick, I don't just mean our service center. I mean, when it comes to insurance, once somebody signs on the dotted line, everything that comes after over the next year is service. If they need to reach out, if they need to make a change, if something has happened, unfortunately, that's service. And so how do we harness technology to be able to help with that service? And ChatGPT is such an interesting point in our life and in society to figure out how to mindfully apply technology so that we can free up humans to do more value add work and really drive the empathy that all people want. At the end of the day, where people are looking for a connection at a certain point, they may not want to talk to a person for a common question that they can get responded to via chatbot or that they can find in a knowledge base. But I think that's one of the most interesting things that we're really thinking through right now of how do you apply technology to be able to free up people to be able to do more value add work. And I think this is not just a question that I have internally with CoverWell. I think this is a question that leaders are asking throughout. And really everybody's asking of what is this going to mean 5 years down the road?
Mm-hmm. Agreed. It's interesting you mentioned ChatGPT because I don't believe that it's going to replace people. And as I totally agree with you that the question should be, how can we use the technology to answer more mundane, run-of-the-mill kind of questions, and then the more complex tasks that require a high level of empathy, the emotions and the workings of a human being that a bot or any form of artificial intelligence can't deliver, the humans can be freed up to deal with those kinds of scenarios.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
And so in continuation of that whole point, where do you see, do you see ChatGPT like evolving and exploding, or even something that's being added on to that, like in the next, I would say, 12 months? Because it's definitely a buzz thing that's happening.
It is.
Have you found ways in your organization to make it work?
We have, and it's interesting. So what I would say is I think that my inclination right now, based on what I've seen, is that I would not want to apply it in terms just front and center to our customers. I think from a service standpoint, it's really unpredictable, right? In terms of what you might get back. But I think it's really compelling to use as a tool, which is where I hope we all end up going. If you think about a calculator being introduced to the world and everybody's saying, oh no, nobody's going to learn how to do math. And it's like, well, you learn to use it as a tool for analysis, for research. And so that's really how we're starting to leverage it of, are there for certain things that we might be able to input into it? Can it crunch massive amounts of data to be able to give us insights that otherwise would have taken us weeks to do? For instance, are we able to take certain inputs and filter it through, of course, nothing proprietary or sensitive, and then understand what's working well from the proprietary technology we've stood up? What might be a production error that we're seeing, or others? So I think that if organizations can figure out how to optimize their back-end operations by using using ChatGPT as a tool, I think it would just make us more efficient. But in terms of it being customer facing right now, I don't think we're there.
All right. Thank you for that. Okay, Saira, so our listeners would have tapped into this episode and they would like to know where they can find you online. Where can they find you online?
The best place probably to find me is LinkedIn. So pretty easy to find me. I'm not sure there are many people with my full name, but Saira Taneja at CoverWell.
All right. So we will have the link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes of this episode. Before we wrap our episodes up, Saira, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? If for any chance you got derailed or you got distracted and you kind of use that quote to kind of just to get you back on track, get you back focused. Do you have one of those?
I do. The one that I always tend to go back to, Yannick, is Alice Walker. She's an American novelist. She has said the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. And I love that because we all have the power each and every day to drive change, no matter what aspect of life it is. And this is what I share with my teams as well, is that you have the power really to change something. Don't pass the buck. Don't think somebody else will do it for you. If you can do it, you have the power to do it. Do it.
Yeah. All right. So we will have that quote in the show notes of this episode. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Saira. And
Welcome.
I think, if anything, our listeners should take away from this interview is focusing on ensuring that we really pay attention to all of our stakeholders, our employees, our customers, and ensure that we really listen to them, as she mentioned, active listening. It's something we take for granted. It's something that we have to do every day in order to communicate. But are we really designating that time and effort to the people who really need to be heard so that real change can be made?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Saira, for taking time out of your very busy schedule and hopping on this podcast with us today and having this amazing conversation. We really appreciate you taking the time. And we learned some great insights. We learned about Cover Whale. We learned some key things that we can utilize to ensure that we're delivering an omni-channel customer experience. We also learned how it is that we can leverage technology to make us more efficient. So I'm sure our listeners got value out of this conversation.
Fabulous. It was wonderful talking with you, Yannick. Thank you for the time.
Perfect. Just want to remind our listeners to follow us on Twitter. And also, if you'd like to join our private Facebook group, it's Navigating the Customer Experience Community. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience webinar will be hosted on Wednesday, July 26, 2023 at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This webinar will be provided with a complimentary copy of the ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience book. Who should attend? Customer service representatives, customer care officers, customer service associates, support agents, business development officers, customer care representatives, cashiers, receptionists, sales and service representatives, customer retention agents, client support specialists, customer engagement officers, client care coordinators, reservation specialists, reservations agents, collections officers, client relationship officers, administrators, account executives. If you deal with customers daily and you are seeking reinforcement of the skills needed to offer an exceptional experience, then this webinar is for you. This webinar will cover managing customer expectations. What are the 4 things customer expectations are based on? Customer service skills. What are the skills and competencies required to serve others? Handling irate and difficult customers. How to handle difficult and irate customers in a busy work environment. Your attitude, communication, finding solutions, and rapid response. Tools that you will need to help you exceed your customers' expectations. This webinar will help you ignite your customer service skills, navigate your emotions, and better understand how to serve customers during a time when the customer is even more demanding than before. Your business will see the exponential rewards when your team members are continually creating fantastic and memorable experiences for your customers. Please visit the register here on our podcast show notes page, and please feel free to hop on over to Instagram. You can visit our business page, Customer Service Global, that's CUSTOMERGLOBA, or you can visit Yannick W.A. Grant, that's YANIQUEWAGRANT. Both Instagram handles will have the link for you to register for this amazing webinar. We look forward to seeing you there. Please come and bring all your friends and colleagues.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.